What is up, Impact students? My name is Macy Moore. I'm a senior at Northwest High School, and I am so excited to be here with you guys tonight for our Impact virtual experience. I just want to start off by saying I hope everybody had a great first week back to school, whatever that may look like for you, whether that be online or in-person classes. Hope that went smoothly as we're all trying to transition into some sense of normalcy. Secondly, I want to give a very warm welcome to all of our 6th grade students who are joining us tonight for the very first time. We are so glad you're here. This may be new for you. This may be different than what you're used to in Kids Summit, but we're all gonna have an amazing time tonight as we kick off our brand new series about comparison. Make sure following tonight's message, you guys go ahead and connect with your small groups and small group leaders in the next week or so you can really dive in and discuss what we're going over tonight and get that in-person interaction that we kind of miss through the cameras sometimes. With all that being said, I hope you have an amazing rest of your week and enjoy.
What's up, Impact? It's Jake here from Jamestown, and I'm so excited to be kicking off a new series this week with you guys, all about comparison. It's the series called Like Me. You know, you're always asking yourself these questions: do they like me? Do I like me? Do my friends like me? Also, like, who wants to be like me? Like, do I want to be like them? We get caught up in this comparison game, and we're going to talk about that, and I'm so excited about it. But one thing I wanted to ask you as we kind of dive into stuff is this right here. Do you really do you hate it when things are unfair? I hate it when things are unfair. You know, one of the things that like gets on my nerves the most, that would get on my nerves when I was your age, and something I bet probably gets on your nerves too, being in school, you know. Also, congratulations on the first week back at school for many of you. It's going to be an amazing year. I've been praying for you guys, hoping that your year is just awesome and that God does a lot of amazing things in your life this year. And while it may look completely different and it's something we've never seen before, I hope that God just does incredible things this school year in your life. But speaking of school, have you ever had those moments where you would study, you had a test coming up, right, or an exam or something coming up that you had to study a lot for, right, and you put all this work into it, and you know, you would go home constantly for weeks, you'd be reading, you'd be studying, you did all the study guides, you did all the prep work, you took the mock exams, all of that stuff, and you thought you were prepared for this test, and you come in and you give it your best shot, and then the results kind of come back in a few days later, and you find out that you got like a B minus, maybe a C, and you look over at your friend, and your friend got an A. Maybe he got an A plus. Maybe he like aced it. Maybe, you know, they aced the test, and you ask him, you're like, hey, how did you ace that test? I felt like I studied forever for that test. I'll cut that. You're like, I feel like I studied forever for that test. How in the world did you ace that? And they just kind of shrug their shoulders and they're like, I don't know. I didn't even study. And you're like, what? You didn't study and you got an A on the test? How in the world is that even possible? Doesn't that just like infuriate you? You're like, I worked so hard for this, and yet you did no work and you got a better grade than I did? How in the world is that fair? It drives me nuts when things are unfair. Now, I'm not going to lie. When I was in school, I kind of did that. I was the guy that never really studied much and would make other people mad because I would get decent grades on my tests and stuff. I did that all the time, and I know what that feels like, but I've also done the other thing. I know how it feels to put a lot of work into wanting to get a test or an exam or whatever it is. Like, you're trying to just achieve something, and then it seems like the other person who did no work whatsoever winds up doing better than you. I've experienced that, and I hate it. I hate it. And it's because we start comparing ourselves to other people. We start comparing our work, the things that we're doing, to other people, the work or the lack of work or what they're not doing. We compare these things in our minds, and you know, we think about it, it's like, oh, well, it's totally unfair. But you know what else I think is totally unfair, where we get kind of wrapped up in this comparison or whether things are fair game or not, you know where this happens all the time? It's right here. Oh yeah. Oh yeah, all the time. We see it all the time on our Instagram feeds, right? It's all over the place. We swipe through Instagram, just kind of scrolling through all over the place, and we look at people's lives in our Instagram feed and we compare our life to what we see on their Instagram feed. And we're like, wow, they just went to Disney World, they went to Aruba, they went to Jamaica, they went to Europe, and they did it all within like 3 days. Like, that's incredible. That's the life I want to live. That's so cool. We see that stuff, and then we look around, we're like, well, we're stuck at home. We're chilling at home. We're not doing anything. They have such a cool life, and I don't. You know where else this might happen? Is this right here. Yeah, you're probably like, oh, Facebook, that's for the old people, and that's where all you old people are. Yeah, I'm an old man, I'm on Facebook. Most of you probably aren't on Facebook because you're not old yet. But yeah, the old people are on Facebook. You can make fun of us all you want, but you know where else it happens? This is for you young people. It's right here. It's right on TikTok. TikTok is one of the worst places on the planet for this stuff. It happens so much on TikTok. We see people that do all these crazy things. We see people that go on crazy vacations, that have these awesome lives. They drive these awesome cars. They live in these awesome houses, and they do the things that we wish that we could do, or they look a certain way, or they can do a certain dance, and like, we just can't do it. And we're like, man, this is so unfair, and this is so aggravating. We start to beat ourselves up because we think that our life just doesn't measure up to what we're seeing on these, what we're seeing in front of our face, that these people, the lives that they have, right? We feel like they're just so much better than we are, and that we could never, ever compare to them realistically. But see, here's the reality. It's this right here. We look at their fake reality and we compare it to our real reality. We compare it to our real reality. See, what we're seeing on Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, any other social media site, what you're seeing from these people's lives is just a snapshot. It's a small little piece of their life that they want you to see, right? And you do this too. We all do it. We put the best of the best on social media, right? You never see anybody on social media that puts their worst pictures out there, right? Who does that? Who puts the worst picture of themselves on social media? You don't want that out there for everyone to see. No, you put the best picture of yourself. You put the best vacation pictures out there. When you cook the best food, you put it on social media. Or when you go to the best restaurant, when you have the best times, is what makes it on social media. Because, we're trying to craft this image of social media to make our life look cool, right? And so everybody's doing this, but we're comparing what we see every single day around us in our real, actual lives. We're comparing it to just a small snapshot of someone else's life that they have crafted, and we think that that's their everyday life, and it's not, right? Why are we doing this? You see, when we do this, I think there's three common reactions that happen when we do it. Three common reactions are just like this. One, we overachieve. And what I mean by overachieve is we see the snapshots that people put on Instagram or on TikTok or Facebook or whatever it is. We see these tiny little snapshots that people give, and we think that we have to have that kind of life, right? We have to have it. And so we work and we work and we work and we work so hard just to try to get this tiny little glimpse of a life that these people have on Instagram. We work so hard so that we can make that our entire life, and it's exhausting. I've told you guys, if you tuned into the challenge a few weeks ago, you guys got a little bit of my story, but I've told my story several times that I've struggled with this. I used to compare myself to the people around me, and I used to overachieve because I wanted people to like me. I used to work so hard just to get people to like me, right? I worked hard for it so that I could be the best at whatever it is that I was going to be, all because I wanted people to like me. I resonate with that. And if you struggle with that, my heart breaks for you, because that is a lonely, lonely place to be. The second thing that we tend to do when we see these snapshots and we compare our lives to what we see on Instagram or social media in general is that we do nothing, right? It paralyzes us with fear, right? We kind of just sit in this place where we're like, oh man, did you see what did you see what so-and-so posted on Instagram? My life's never going to be that way. I can never own up to that. And so we sit there and we just think that you're not as good and you'll never be as good, and you do nothing, right? It paralyzes you where you sit. Or the third reaction, and I think a lot of you do this, I do this, I think a lot of us struggle with it, even if you're not willing to admit it, you'll resonate with this. The third one is we play it over and over again in our heads. We see what these people do on social media. We see the awesome life that they have, and we just think about it over and over and over and over again until it eats at us and it becomes an obsession inside of us, and it's not healthy. And all we think about is how can we get that life, and how can I compare to them? How can I be like them? Man, that is a tough place to be. But see, here's something I hinted to earlier that I think that we kind of get lost in, is this idea that we've forgotten what we already know, right? We've forgotten this principle that we already know. And what that means is, this right here. We have perfected the art of crafting an image of the life we want others to think that we have, even if it doesn't match the life that we actually have, right? We have perfected this art of crafting this image for social media so that we can make people think we have this awesome life when it doesn't actually match up with what we actually have. See, the problem with this whole thing, with this entire mindset, is that we know ourselves too well. We see our own life every single day, right? We live our own life. We see the house that we're in every single day. We see the clothes that we wear every single day. We get up, we go to the same garage, we drive the same car every single day, we go to the same school, we got the same friends. Nothing is ever different. It's always the same thing. We're used to the things that we see. It's become common, right? And we think that those things are lesser than because they're common, right? That doesn't mean that they're lesser than. That means that you might actually have a pretty good life, but you're comparing what you see every single day. You know yourself too well to this other person's crafted image that they always are displaying, right? Let me say it another way. When we compare ourselves to others, especially on social media, we believe things about ourselves based on somebody else's half-true or fully fake image that they're putting online, right? I'm going to say that again because I think that's very powerful. I want to let it sink in. When we compare ourselves to others, especially on social media, we believe things about ourselves based off of somebody else's half-true or even fully fake image that they're putting together. Man, that is tough. We believe that maybe we're less than because look at this, look at what they're doing. Look at the awesome things that they get to do. I don't get to do those things. So you start to believe that about yourself. You start to believe, I'm never going to own up to what these people are, because you believe that that's their life, and it's not their life, right? We all do this. But see, it becomes unhealthy when you start believing things about yourself that just aren't true. Comparison has become so normal in our culture that most of us don't even realize that we're doing it, but we all are doing it. You see, you might not think that this has much to do with Jesus or the teachings of Jesus or maybe the Bible, Christianity, all that cool stuff, but it really does, and we're going to dive into that. You see, there was this man, we've talked about him a lot. His name was Paul. Paul, as you guys probably know, Paul was a big influence within the Christian church. Right after Jesus died, Paul became almost like the man. Shortly after, Paul became the man. He wrote most of what we consider the New Testament in the Bible today. Paul is one of my favorite people to learn about. Like, Paul is awesome. And Paul would go around. What Paul's kind of mission in life was, he would go around to all these different churches in the world and he would teach them. Right? He would teach them the things about Jesus. And when he would leave these towns, he would write letters so that he could stay in touch with them. And some of these letters made it into the Bible, right? They're like the letters we call like 1st and 2nd Corinthians, Philippians, Ephesians, all of that stuff. Those Ian's things. They're called the epistles, which just means letters that Paul wrote. And the little pre-name for it, like, so for Corinthians, it was the church that was in Corinth. Corinth was a city, so Corinthians is the letter to the church in Corinth, right? We're actually going to be reading out of that today. But to give you a little bit of background for what was happening here, in this verse that Paul wrote that we're gonna break down just a little bit. To give you some background, Paul would say some things that kind of would make people a little uncomfortable, right? He would call people out, but he would do it in a loving manner, but he would correct people, and some people took this as if, like, very offensive. They were like, oh, he's calling me out. And it was like, no, I'm not really calling you out. I'm trying to help you become better so that we can all be better. We could all pursue Jesus a little bit better. But some of these people just didn't take it that way, right? And they would almost give Paul a bad name. So that they would say, like, oh, well, look at that Paul guy, but look at me. I'm so much better than Paul. And they were like, look at this guy. He's right here with me. Like, we're comparing ourselves to each other all the time because we're so great, right? So they lashed out against the criticisms. I bet you've probably done that. Have you ever done that? Have you ever lashed out against somebody because they tried to help you? They tried to make you a better person, and you're like, no, don't you ever call me that again? You know, those types of things. That's what these people were doing, right? So Paul had a response. He responded to these critics, and this is the verse that I wanted to pull up for us today that we're just going to take a quick look at. This is what Paul wrote about his critics. He said this right here. Oh, don't worry. We wouldn't dare say that we are as wonderful as these other men who tell you how important they are, but they are only comparing themselves with each other, using themselves as the standard of measurement. How ignorant. Ooh, Paul was a little spicy there. I think it was a little spicy. I think he was a little sarcastic because he was like, man, I wouldn't tell you I'm nearly as great as that guy because he's telling you how great he is all the time. He's like, but if you really want to know the truth about it, they're only comparing themselves to each other, right? They're using each other as the standard of comparison, and that's why they think that they are so great. And then he calls them ignorant. Paul is saying this. He's saying, without a doubt, it is absolutely ridiculous to let your behavior and your life be based on a comparison of someone else's behavior or life. Why in the world would you let your life or somebody else's life be the standard measurement, right? Because people mess up, people aren't perfect. So why in the world are you just trying to outperform everybody else? Paul says, that's a little ignorant. He actually kind of says that they look a little silly. Man, I think that that's tough. I mean, that speaks to what we're talking about. Why would we compare ourselves to what we see other people post on social media? Why would we let our worth and our value be wrapped up in what we see from other people on social media? I mean, that doesn't make any sense. You see, this actually comes from an Old Testament mindset. This actually comes from a principle that comes from the Old Testament. The Old Testament was written before Jesus. This was the Jewish culture in which Christianity came from, but it was actually something Paul was very familiar with. Paul actually had this memorized. But this little principle comes from the book of Proverbs, and it's this right here. It says, above all else, guard your heart, for everything you do flows from it. Ooh. Man, I love that. I really love that part of the verse where it says, for everything you do flows from it. What does that mean? To me, the way that I've always kind of been taught this and the way that I always kind of think about it is the idea of, have you ever had what seems like an uncontrollable response? Have you ever, like, stubbed your toe or something and said something, like, immediately that you didn't mean? Ooh, maybe it was like a bad word. Maybe it was a spicy word, right? Or maybe your mom or dad were making you so mad one day that you just lashed out and you said something that you didn't mean to say. You know what that means? That means that was in your heart. I know that that's tough. I've done that. I've done that so many times. I do that to this day. I say things that I don't mean, but what that actually means is that it's in the heart. That's why it's so important to guard our heart, because it says this right here: for everything you do flows from it. You might have the response of, well, I don't know where that came from. That's actually not true. You do know where it came from, because deep down, it was somewhere in your heart. And it's not necessarily making you a bad person, but it means that there's things we got to work on inside, right? And this is why it's so important. Our hearts matter because they control everything else. Our hearts control everything else. So we have to get our heart right before we can get this comparison issue right. You know what I mean? So here's something that, is kind of building off of one another. How do we go into these situations? How do we go into these situations where we're comparing ourselves to other people and we have an issue going on inside? What's actually attacking us? Well, I think it's this right here. Comparison is one of the quickest ways to destroy our hearts. We get so caught up in this idea of what this person's doing or what this person's not doing versus what I'm doing versus what this person's not doing, to where it infects our hearts, right? It gets in there and it taints everything, and we become lonely, we become miserable, we become angry, we become jealous. All of these other things stem from this issue, right? And it's something we got to get right. So how do we do that? How do we face the temptation of wanting to compare ourselves, and how do we guard our hearts in those situations, right? The first thing I want you to remember is this right here. Don't compare your worth with their post. You are worth so much more than what another person's post says about you, or what you think about from just seeing another person's post, right? Don't compare your worth with their post. So how is that realistic? How can we do this in everyday life? How can we get down when we're actually scrolling through TikTok or Instagram or Facebook or whatever it is? What's some things that we can do? So I put together just a little plan that I think could be helpful. And this is not like only do one of these things. This builds off of each other, right? You have to do step 1, step 2, step 3, and so on, right? This is the process that we have to go through. This is the mindset that we have to get in. And it's this right here. You guard your heart on social media or comparison in general like this. 1, guard your social media. Think about your social media. Examine how your social media is making you feel. That's step number 2. Pay attention to how it affects you, right? Step 2 is pay attention to how it affects you. When you're on social media, how is it making you feel? Is it making you feel like it's something you want to participate in? Is it actually bringing you joy in life? Or is it making you compare yourself to other people and making you feel less, right? Step 3, guard your thoughts when you are watching the likes roll in, or not roll in as fast as you want them to, right? Because sometimes we would make a post and we're like, oh, this is going to get a ton of likes. And then you hit the little heart button on Instagram, check your notifications, and it's like, ooh, I got like 3. And it's like my mom and my mom's dog account, and then some dude I don't even know, right? Yeah, so sometimes that can be discouraging. Examine that. Why are you feeling the way that you're feeling in those moments? Step number 4, guard your comments. Right? What's the comments that are coming into your posts, right? Is it something that builds you up with life? Or is it something that makes you compare your life to other people that actually winds up tearing you down? Step number 5, guard yourself when you interact with others who make your life feel less. See, this is so important. Who are you actually surrounding yourself with? Who are the people that you're actually hanging out with on a regular basis? Is it someone who makes your life feel like it's worth living? Or is it someone who makes your life feel like it's not all that great? Like it's really not all that cool, and our lives could be a lot better if we were just this way, right? Why? Why is it that way? We have to guard ourselves from those things. And step number 6, guard who you spend time with, right? That kind of plays in to what I was talking about before. But it comes around, it comes down to community. It comes down to the voices that are all around you. Are they voices of positivity, or are they voices that are going to be tearing you down? So I got 3 questions for you. When you're dealing with these issues of comparison, whenever you're tempted to play the comparison game, here's 3 questions that I want you to ask. What things are fueling how I feel, right? What's making me feel this way, right? I want you to ask yourself that. Number 2, what are some things I want to do because of how I feel? Do I want to do things that are positive, or do I want to do things that really just because I want to be like somebody else? What's motivating your action? Step number 3, what or who am I comparing myself to that's bringing up these feelings, right? What are you actually comparing yourself to? Are you guarding your heart, or are you letting outside voices influence how you feel about yourself, right? It's so important for us to get this right. We guard our hearts by paying attention to what we feel when we're tempted to play the comparison game. Here's what I want you to remember is this right here. Don't compare your worth to their post. What would it look like in your life if you actually began to guard your heart against, comparing yourself to others? What would your life actually look like? Would you be more free? Would you be more comfortable in your own skin? Would you be able to go out and do things that you weren't able to do before? Maybe you could celebrate the things, celebrate your achievements because you're proud of them. I think your life could look a lot better. And I think it would be a lot better too because, Paul talks about it, and it's a biblical principle that we can follow to guard our hearts. God loves you. God cares for you. God has so much planned for you that you don't even know. And he has a life for you that is so worth living. And if God believes that about you, why are we so quick to not believe that about ourselves based off of the life that somebody else is living, or actually just what we see on social media, which we talked about before, which actually isn't all that great? God loves you. We love you. I love you. I'm going to pray for us. God, thank you so much for this wonderful reminder. Thank you so much for this idea of guarding our hearts. I pray for our impact students that when they get tempted to play that comparison game, God, that you would just speak to them and you would let them know how much you love them, how much you care for them, and what you actually think of them. God, remind them of who they are with you. Remind them of what you have done for them, and remind them of how much you love them. Remind them of the joy that living a life for you can bring. God, we just want our students to be wrapped up in the idea that they are your children and that you are the one who matters. Your opinion of them is the one that matters, God. God, we love you and we thank you for all that you've done for us. It's in Jesus' name we pray. Amen. All right, guys, I love you. Reach out to us if you need us. Peace.
What a great message there from Jake, talking about comparison. And y'all, how many times do you find yourself on social media right now scrolling and just comparing yourself to your friends and what they have, or what you wish you had, or what you wish so badly you could be a part of too? I don't know what it is for y'all, but I'm sure you all struggle with something in terms of comparison. And hey, we want to remind you guys again right now in middle school and in high school, as we're starting the brand new school year, y'all, we got to remember our worth is not in other people. It's in the way Jesus made us, exactly as we are and who we are. And y'all, we hope you guys have a great time in small groups tonight talking about that. Y'all, be mindful of the comparison trap. We're going to be talking about the next 2 weeks as well, because it is so important, so easy for all of us to compare ourselves to other people. Iris even compares herself to her little sister all the time, right? It just happens all the time. So let's be mindful of that. Y'all, we love you guys. We're for y'all. We hope the school year is going great for you guys as you're back in that new routine. That's Evie talking to her mom right now. But yeah, hey, we hope the school year is going well for y'all. The A-Day, B-Day, the remote learning, whatever it is for you. If you are new to Impact, or if you don't have a small group yet, please send us a message, DM us, let us know, so we can be sure to get you guys set up, because you need other people in your life right now to journey with you. We love y'all. We're praying for y'all. Hey, and yeah, by the way, with your small groups tonight, be open, be real about the things that you struggle with comparison about. All right, and know that we are praying for y'all, and we cannot wait to see you guys again sometime soon. Hey, and shout out to all the new 6th graders. Yay. Welcome to Impact. We can't wait to be able to hang out with you guys in person on Wednesday night. Right now, this is all we have, but we really, really hope you guys enjoy it. Let us know if we can help you with anything. We're so glad to have y'all in the Impact family. It's going to be awesome hanging out with y'all and having some fun. So hope you guys all have fun connecting with your groups. Sixth graders, we're still getting y'all connected here in Kernersville. So hold tight. We'll be sure to get y'all connected very, very soon with your small group. I think Jamestown and Oak Ridge is already rocking and rolling. So we'll be excited just to see all the energy you sixth graders have and we're all able to come together. We love y'all. We're praying for y'all. And we cannot wait to see you guys again sometime soon. Stay safe, stay encouraged, y'all, and let's impact strong more than anything else. We love y'all. Peace.